Let's talk about the Republican National Convention.
You invited The Rock, the World Wrestling Federation champion, to speak at the Republican National Convention?
In order to understand the way the Republican Party works today, it's important to understand how the RNC worked historically and how that has changed. That story is a story of the devolution of power from elites inside the Republican Party to broader swaths of the Republican primary electorate. That has come with some upsides and with some downsides. The Republican National Committee was established in 1856, just 2 years after the formation of the Republican Party itself. The primary motivation behind its creation was to establish a formal organizational structure that could support the new party's electoral ambitions. Like all other party conventions, the RNC was designed to create a selection process for presidential candidates. The first RNC meeting took place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, followed by a national convention in Philadelphia, where John C. Fremont was nominated as the first Republican presidential candidate. The vice presidential nominee was former New Jersey Senator William Dayton. The second-place finisher was a somewhat obscure former representative from Illinois named Abraham Lincoln. From the beginning, the RNC was tasked with several key responsibilities: developing and promoting the party's platform, coordinating fundraising efforts, strategizing for elections, organizing the national convention every 4 years. Initially, the RNC served as a critical decision-making body where party leaders and delegates from across the country would gather to debate and decide on key issues, including the nomination of presidential and vice presidential candidates. The 1860 convention in Chicago stands as a seminal moment in American history. Abraham Lincoln's nomination as the Republican candidate for president was not just a political decision, it was a moral stance against the expansion of slavery. This convention solidified the Republican Party's commitment to abolition, a position that would lead to Lincoln's presidency and the Civil War. Lincoln's election underscored the party's dedication to liberty and equality, principles that would define the GOP for generations. The 1880 convention, also held in Chicago, showcased the party's ability to unite in the face of division. With no clear frontrunner, the convention was marked by intense debate and political maneuvering. Ultimately, James A. Garfield emerged as the compromise nominee. Garfield's nomination highlighted the GOP's capacity to reconcile internal conflicts and present a united front, a trait that would prove crucial in its future endeavors. Garfield won on the 36th ballot. Chester A. Arthur was selected vice president as sort of an afterthought, a way of consolidating the party apparatus. When Garfield was assassinated, Arthur became president. The 1912 convention in Chicago is a quintessential example of a floor fight that dramatically reshaped the GOP. Incumbent President William Howard Taft faced intense opposition from former President Theodore Roosevelt, who had become disillusioned with Taft's policies. Roosevelt actually entered the convention with more primary victories and more delegates. Taft, however, worked the newly ubiquitous phones in order to consolidate his own support. The convention chairman, Elihu Root, ended up disallowing many of Roosevelt's delegates. All of this chaos culminated in Roosevelt walking out and forming the progressive Bull Moose Party. This split in the Republican ranks led to the election of Democrat Woodrow Wilson, illustrating the profound impact of internal party strife. Moving forward to the 1940 convention in Philadelphia, America witnessed another unexpected twist. Wendell Willkie, a businessman with no prior political experience and a former Democrat, emerged as the Republican nominee against all odds. Former Indiana Senator James Watson famously said of Willkie, "I don't mind the church converting a whore, but I don't like her to lead the choir the first night." Initially considered a dark horse, Willkie's candidacy gained momentum through a groundswell of support from delegates dissatisfied with the leading contenders. His nomination was a testament to the unpredictable nature of political conventions and the power of a compelling outsider narrative. We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, I want to talk to you about your internet freedom. Social media companies get to decide what content is suitable for consumption. They censor whatever they don't like. Shouldn't you be able to decide for yourself what you want to read or to watch? The reality is you should be limiting big tech's control over your life as much as possible. One way to do that is by limiting their access to your data. For that, I use ExpressVPN. In order for big tech companies to censor the content you consume, they need to be able to track your online activity. They track what you're searching for, the videos you watch, everything you click. They can then match your activity to your offline identity using your device's unique IP address. But when I use ExpressVPN, these tech companies can't see my IP address at all. My identity is masked and anonymized by a secure VPN server. Plus, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of my data to protect me from hackers and internet bad guys. Does that sound complicated? Well, it really isn't, I promise. ExpressVPN software takes 1 minute to set up on your computer or phone. You tap one button, you're protected. So why give tech companies a free license to know everything about you and then turn around and sell off your info? It's time to take back your privacy at expressvpn.com/Ben. By visiting my special link, you'll get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN service for free. Who doesn't like to save money, right? That's expressvpn.com/Ben, expressvpn.com/Ben to protect your data today. In 1952, television became a factor at the RNC. Despite the fact that Senator Robert Taft had by far captured the most delegates, 500 of the available 604 entering the convention, Dwight D. Eisenhower's team played a brilliant media hand, claiming the powers that be were stopping Eisenhower's candidacy with backroom deals. All of this caused a clamor across the country, a clamor sufficient to elevate Eisenhower to the nomination and to the presidency. The 1964 Republican Convention in San Francisco was yet another pivotal moment characterized by ideological clashes and powerful rhetoric. Barry Goldwater's nomination marked a significant shift toward conservatism within the GOP. Goldwater's victories in the primaries represented a rejection of the Republican status quo. His acceptance speech, with his famous line, "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue," galvanized the conservative base and set the stage for the future direction of the party. Despite losing the general election, Goldwater's influence would echo in the rise of Ronald Reagan. After 1968, the convention process shifted for both the Democrats and the Republicans. Thanks to the open warfare in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention of '68, both parties embraced the primaries as the chief mechanism for selecting their nominees, to avoid floor fights. As historian Tevi Troy says, quote, "If a candidate could secure a majority of delegates before the convention and clinch the nomination, he would enter the convention as the presumptive nominee, and his forces would run all aspects of the convention, including the staging, speaker selection, and platform committee. The idea is to have as smooth and as confrontation-free a convention as possible." Perhaps the last gasp of the old convention logic manifested for a brief moment with the 2016 Republican National Convention. Stunned by Donald Trump's march through the primaries, some members of the Republican caucus tried to lead a floor fight to deny Trump the convention and elevate another alternative. That move failed dramatically, of course. Trump then proceeded to win the presidency, consolidating the Republican base in heretofore unprecedented ways. While the advent of modern primaries and caucuses has shifted much of the decision-making power away from the convention floor and directly into the hands of voters throughout the primary season, the convention remains an essential event for the Republican Party. It fulfills several vital functions. First, it nominates candidates. The primary purpose of the convention is to officially nominate the party's candidates for president and vice president. Delegates from each state and territory cast their votes based on the outcomes of primaries and caucuses held earlier in the year. This formal nomination process is crucial for solidifying the party's ticket and setting the stage for the general election campaign. Second, adoption of the party platform. Another critical function of the convention is the adoption of a party platform. This document outlines the party's positions on key issues and serves as a guide for its policy priorities. The platform is crafted by a committee. It's then debated and ratified by the delegates during the convention. This process ensures the party's official stance reflects the collective views of the members. Third, party unity and mobilization. The convention is also a vital opportunity for the party to unify after a potentially divisive primary season. It's a time for healing rifts, rallying the base, and energizing supporters. High-profile speeches, including those by the presidential and vice presidential nominees, are designed to inspire and mobilize the party faithful. These speeches often serve as the unofficial kickoff of the general election campaign. In the contemporary era, the RNC has become a highly orchestrated media event designed to maximize positive coverage and public engagement. Advances in technology, changes in media consumption have transformed the way conventions are conducted and perceived. Today's conventions feature elaborate stage design, high-profile entertainment, carefully scripted speeches aimed at presenting the party and its candidates in the best possible light. Social media now plays a significant role in amplifying the convention's message and reaching a broader audience. Still, the fundamental purposes of the convention remain the same: to nominate candidates, adopt a platform, and unify the party. The Republican National Convention continues to be a pivotal moment in the election cycle, setting the tone for the general election and mobilizing the party's base for the final push toward victory.